Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Change, where I am here answering your questions around organizational change management. Now, today's question is an interesting one because it's actually someone asking me to pick sides. Let's take a look. The question today really relates to timing, specifically around when you should start a user readiness plan. Because when you think about it, any change initiative you have within your organization has multiple components or work streams, right? There's the technical work stream or the process change work stream, and then there's the user readiness or user adoption work stream when users start using or implementing that change. So in this instance, she's saying that her organization usually waits to drive adoption until the change is completed and ready for users to start using the new technology, but she thinks they need to start earlier. She's saying, who's right? So let's take a look and I'll give you some thoughts from my perspective. So for questions like this, I really like to hone in on the personal aspect of affecting a change, right? So I want to think about this both from your personal life as well as your business life, right? Of how you deal with change, because honestly, your brain doesn't know if the change is related to business or personal. They just know it has to process a change. So the first thing, as human beings, we like to gather information whenever a change is upon us, right? Think about if you were going to buy a new car or buy a house, right? Most people just won't walk into a dealership and buy a car on the spot. Maybe some do, but most people will do their research. They gather information, they assess the pros and the cons, and they really want to analyze their choices before they make a decision. And that's no different when your organization is going through change. And I bring this up because from a timing perspective, usually those are not split-second decisions. They usually take some time. The next thing you want to consider is when you wait until that last possible minute to communicate, right? When you're ready for people to make a change and they don't have time to absorb and assess all of that information, they push back. That is why a lot of users end up pushing back when it comes to change. It's a normal human reaction because you didn't give them enough time to gather all of the details and ask all of the questions that they want to ask. I actually had a customer recently who said, oh, it's fine. We always expect the first 2 weeks to just be complete and utter chaos. And I was like, but you don't have to, right? If you plan earlier, you can avoid those 2 weeks of frustration and escalated support calls and all of that. Pushback is a normal human reaction, but you can alleviate a lot of that if you give people more time to absorb information. And when you're communicating, the more details you can provide, the better. Because again, people like information. They like to be able to have all of the data so that they can make an informed decision. And you don't want to be cramming all of the data into one email or one communication. So if you spread it out over 30 days or something like that before you're asking people to actually implement the change, the more likely you're going to be for them to calm down a little bit and say, oh, that's not so bad. Yeah, I can go along with that. So the more details you can provide, the better, which basically means you should spread out your communications over a period of time. And that's what happens before the change. Now, we all know that change takes time. Results are going to take time. So your readiness plan should also continue well after the change is completed. So from a timing perspective, right, you don't just want to think about the day you want people to implement a change. You want to think about how do we get them ready beforehand? How do we get them going when it comes time to change? And then how do we support them after the change is completed? So when you're thinking about timing, you want to be thinking before, during, and after, not just that moment in time when you're ready for them to actually make the change. So in doing so, I really do encourage you to plan and implement your user readiness or people change plan in parallel alongside your technical or process planning changes that are going on in your organization, right? Because the sooner you can communicate, the better. And I will tell you, people are going to hear that something is happening. People start chatting and they're going to start forming their own opinion. They're going to hear that some big change is happening. And if you don't give them the details, if you don't give them the information that you want them to know, they're just going to form their own opinion. And that's usually not a good thing, right? Usually they think the worst. So the earlier you can communicate, the more information you can give, and the more time you can give them to absorb and digest all of that information, the better off you're going to be. A really important tip, though, is make sure that from a timing perspective and the details that you are communicating, they're all in alignment with your work streams. And what I mean by this is when you're implementing a new technical or process change, right? That's also going to have its own little life cycle. And when you're rolling out your user readiness plan, which is your communications and your training and your support strategy, that should align with what's happening from a technical or process change standpoint. As a quick example, let's say you're rolling out a new technology, right? You don't want to be communicating to users, 30 days before and asking them to go take training and, start using all of this technology if your IT department is still working on pushing out the application or the client, to everyone's desktops. So you want to make sure that any messaging and any timing that you're doing from a communications and readiness standpoint aligns with where your technical and process deployments are in their own life cycle. So just make sure they line up, so you'll get a much better user experience and better results that will come faster. And hopefully you can avoid that 2 weeks, like that customer said, of complete and utter chaos, I think are the words that they used when they roll out new technology. So how about you? What about your organization? When does your organization typically start their user readiness? Both planning and implementation, right? There are two steps, right? You can plan for everything, but when do you start executing? Would love to hear your thoughts. Add them to the comments below. Share some of your experiences, the good, the bad. Maybe there are reasons why you wait until the last minute. Would love to hear that as well. So definitely add your comments below. And if you are finding these videos helpful, like the video, subscribe to this channel. Lots more videos are on the way. And if you have a question that you'd like me to consider for one of these videos, go ahead and submit that to aka.my/question. On that same page, you can also sign up for some special offers. I'll be launching some workshops and communities and things like that. So you can sign up to receive more information as those launch as well. And with that, I am logging off from another edition of Let's Talk Change. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.